we're back.
Fellas, think we could listen to the radio
on Hail Varsity Radio, presented by the Nebraska Lottery.
Yes! That's awesome!
Back with you, it's Hail Varsity, presented by the Nebraska Lottery. We say hi to Mike Babcock with HailVarsity.com and magazine, historian, author, Hall of Famer. Babbers, you gearing up here for next Saturday?
Yeah, I'm ready. I was ready probably a while ago because there's all the talk. It's like let's play some games rather than just talk about it.
No, I totally agree with you. I want to go back to the situation Nebraska's in, heading over to Ireland for a Week 0 kickoff, and Nebraska found themselves at the front of college football season different times during the Osborne era. Mike, I think a lot about those kickoff classics, and while Nebraska may have some experience, it's a little different experience heading over to Ireland than, say, those teams that took on a West Virginia or a Penn State or an A&M in East Rutherford.
Yeah, it is a different situation. And when Nebraska went to Tokyo, that was obviously the last game of the regular season. So it is, but it's the same circumstance for Northwestern. So, I don't think that is going to give one team or the other any kind of advantage. And I think that it's probably a little bit of an advantage that Nebraska's offense has been reshaped with a new, with Mark Whipple and the fun collaboration with Scott Frost. Scott's still involved in it, but I think that there's a little bit of an advantage there probably for Nebraska because Northwestern is not as familiar with what Nebraska might do compared to what Nebraska would be familiar with what Northwestern might do. So if Nebraska, as the caller pointed out, if Nebraska can be fundamentally sound, and as you guys have talked about, and not make mistakes and not self-destruct on a significant level, Nebraska probably has the advantage there because it's an unknown quantity. We don't even know what it's going to look like, really, and Northwestern doesn't. So fundamentally, you do things right, maybe you've got an advantage.
Well, Mike, if you don't mind me jumping in here, Schmitty, for a second, do you think that the fact that Scott Frost coaching for his job, do you think that's an advantage? I mean, it adds some urgency to the program as a whole, but it also adds pressure not only to the coaching staff, but to the team itself. So is that factor is that a part of how you're evaluating this game looking ahead to a week and a half from now?
I think, Elijah, that's a negative. I think the pressure of this is my job, I've got to do it kind of thing, it puts a pressure on you that if you do make a mistake, I think it magnifies that mistake, if that makes any sense. I don't think it's a good thing that they're working under that pressure because I think, you have to assume that, hey, we're trying to be fundamentally sound. And 4 consecutive losing seasons. I mean, they were trying to be, but we saw a lot of times where they had to break out of what it was they were trying to do. And that's reflected in the fact that Martinez ended up being the leading rusher. That wasn't exactly what you wanted from your offense. And so I don't think pressure is really on Nebraska's side. That's just my opinion because I think that, that suggests that, well, they didn't really try as hard when there wasn't that pressure, but I believe that they did. So this just adds to it.
Mike Babcock's with us at MD Babs on Twitter's where you find him, HailVarsity.com and magazine. Mike, where are you with this? Do you look at this as an extra challenge because of the logistics, or do you look at it as just really a sweet opportunity to that point we were talking about to start the show off, where you've had all this negative in the early parts of the season during the Frost era? Well, this seems a little daunting and completely inconvenient if you're a football coach going to Chicago versus going to Dublin. You know what? You can kind of reverse the curse, change course, so to speak, if you get out of Dodge with a win.
Yeah, and I think that it's the first game is critical, I think, because of the mindset. You come away from that game with a victory, and then you've got a couple of games that you should win, and you build up some momentum, and you have this belief. Winning is partly a mindset. You got to believe that you're going to win, and it's easy to say, "I believe we're going to win," but it's a fine line. I think the Northwestern game is critical to that. You build that mindset, you build some momentum. You got Oklahoma coming into Lincoln. As I wrote in the magazine, if you're 3-0 and you've got that mindset, at least it's going to be uncomfortable for the Sooners, at least, because I think that you have developed something and you've dealt with all the things that go into having to travel to Dublin, and both teams are dealing with it. But I remember a lot of the players coming back from Tokyo and saying they just assumed that they didn't do it that way, because sure. It's not a vacation. It's not a tourist trip. It's business.
Mike, just one little thought here, and this is just a bit of an aside from the conversation, I guess. Over the past week or so, it's just I've been thinking, like, isn't it not a little bit ridiculous that this game is being called Week 0? Despite the fact that, I mean, if you're going to do a Week 0 game every single year, isn't that technically just your Week 1? And with this conversation, we've been saying Week 0 a lot, and I go, I think it'd be more simple if this game is Week 1 and then everyone else just starts Week 2.
Yeah, I don't know where that Week 0 came from. I've used it too, but I mean, there are at least a couple other games. I know Illinois and Wyoming play. So I don't know. It's almost like it's Week 0. It's a 0. It doesn't count for anything. Let's wait till we get to the real season, which begins with Week 1. I don't know where that mindset comes from. And Illinois and Wyoming, that's not being played somewhere outside the United States. So
it's not like it's a special game. It's just coming down a week before most of the other games start, which, I mean, like,
right.
You're not calling Week 18 of the NFL pre-playoffs or it's Week 18. Like,
if you could stick Illinois and Wyoming, the Fighting Craig Bulls and the Fighting Pig Farmers, where would you stick them in the U.S. if you could pick the venue, Babbers?
For them, where they would play?
Yeah.
Well, probably somewhere in western Kansas.
Okay.
I'd love to play out there.
Just for fun, do we just
a field of dreams, but for college football?
Yeah,
it's in a cornfield,
something like that.
There you go. Yeah, out in a cornfield somewhere, and that's good.
Halftime shows a rodeo.
Week 0. You can't be Week 0 unless you play somewhere, a neutral field somewhere. Mm-hmm. It can be in the United States, it can be the Field of Dreams, or it can be in Ireland, or it can be wherever. I don't know. And I don't know. I can see the NFL doing kind of things like that, but college football, I'm not exactly sure how that works.
Yeah, it was Navy Notre Dame. Did they play each other over in Ireland to start this whole thing?
I think that's right.
Yeah, back in 16.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Mike, if we look at a specific side or position group for next Saturday, who are you kind of keying in on? Is it quarterback? I know O-line's there, but is there a position group that could help out the big question mark, which is the offensive line?
For me, well, the offensive line, that's my answer is there one position group, but and we're taking away, when I say that, I'm not ignoring the defense, mm-hmm. because the defense, what they do up front is going to be important defensively as well, whether they can get the job done with a lot of new guys there. Okay, so on offense, then the next thing I'm going to look at is receivers. If this is going to be kind of a pass-oriented type offense with Casey Thompson, how are the receivers going to shake out? They've got a lot of guys that people have talked about. There's a lot of receivers in the mix there, but who's going to step up, and who are we going to see when they go out there? And of course, obviously, the running back thing is a big topic, because Nebraska at one time was just a definitive school for for running backs with Mike Rozier and Calvin Jones and Derek Brown and Doug DeBose and whatever. But, any of those areas could be interesting to me, but it begins with the offensive line.
You just hit on Rozier, Michael Heisman, with the throwbacks. Do you like the tribute to 83?
Yeah, I like that. And, it's more subtle than some of these other kind of throwbacks that they've had. I'm big on Scarlet and Cream, and I'm big on that, obviously, on that 83 team. That was a pretty exciting thing. And, wasn't a national champion, but I think Tom Osborne earned as much respect for that going for 2 that year as he did for anything else that he accomplished as a coach. And national writers were all over Tom for in a positive way, saying, he cared enough to go for the win rather than settle for the tie.
Mike, we've had the 1997 team honored with a throwback jersey back in 2017. Now we're getting 83 honored. Well, what's the next team you'd like to see get honored with a throwback jersey?
What's the next team? Well, have they had the 71 team?
They have not.
No, that'd be good.
I think that would be good because that really, that's one of the best teams all time, I think. You look at that, even in the Big Eight, the top 3 teams in the final poll were Nebraska number 1, Oklahoma number 2, Colorado number 3. That was a unique season, and I think that would be cool. Otherwise, go back to 1912 and have those flap helmets and all that stuff.
No face mask, just give me leather.
Yeah. They had one season they had kind of handles on the side of their jerseys, and they could lift a guy up and throw him in the end zone.
That doesn't seem safe or legal. Mike Babcock with us.
It does not seem safe or legal, right? You got it in the right order also.
Babbers, will get caught up next week, my friend. Thanks for jumping on with us today.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys.
There he is. Mike Babcock with us from his football office. Hail Varsity Radio on a Wednesday. We'll dive in, take a peek at that projected depth chart. You can give us a shout at 466-3776 or 800-825-5865. We'll get some of your emails. Is coming up, Joel Makovica, 20 minutes away. Evan Bland in hour 2 with Hail Varsity.